What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another Jersey Joe show. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, and today we're going to be talking about the Boston Bruins. Now, I know I haven't posted a video in about 3 or 4 days now, I think since last Friday. And I know I said I'd be doing one of these every single day, so I do apologize. It was just Labor Day weekend, things got really hectic. I didn't have my equipment with me, I was out in Brooklyn with my fiance. Didn't have my computer, didn't have my mic with me, and so it was tough to really get things done. And I like to do things in a way that exudes quality. I like to do quality work, and I felt really bad about doing the Oilers on my cell phone in my car. It just felt like I let that team down because every other team is going to have this setup I have here where I can talk and listen to a high quality camera and a high quality microphone, and they got the short end of the stick. But they do have McDavid, so I don't feel too bad about that. But talking about the show and this channel and the podcast in general, I have been working on a few changes the past couple of days to make my setup a little bit better. If you saw, I believe it was the Rangers video, I actually arranged my microphone the right way so that it was facing me, because I originally had it tilted so you couldn't hear me too well. I fixed that. I actually added lighting in the back of the camera, so now that the camera doesn't need to add an artificial quality, or an artificial lighting I should say, where it makes me blurred out and it makes me soften and all these different things it does automatically, and so it ended up looking like a much lower quality video than the camera was capable of. So hopefully I fixed that. I tweaked some settings. I'm going to record it at a much higher resolution than I thought was possible with this camera. I'm going to upload it and render it. Let's see how it looks. I'm hoping to get the best possible sound and the best possible video for you guys for the show. So if you're a Bruins fan, you're a lucky one, because this is the best the Jersey Joe show has ever looked or sound since June of 2017 when I started this thing. So let's talk about the Boston Bruins. Had a bit of a slow off season. They lost in round 6 to the Ottawa Senators of the playoffs, and they're an interesting team because I'm not really sure which direction they're going in. You would think they would try and do a little bit of rebuilding, since this is the first time they've been in the playoffs since, I believe, 2013. And they lost in 6 games in round 1. So it wasn't the best showing. I don't know if they're going to continue down this route, and it looks like they might be. So the only arrival I would say that they actually had this offseason was that of Charlie McAvoy. But he actually had his NHL debut in the playoffs for the 6 games they played against Ottawa. And he averaged 24 minutes a night. He looks absolutely fantastic. And then in terms of the departures, you lost Colin Miller, you lost Dominic Moore, who definitely one of my favorite players, but I get it. He's not as effective as he used to be. And you lose Drew Stafford. But other than that, it was a fairly tame offseason for the Bruins. It looks like they're keeping that same core. They're keeping Chara on, obviously. They're keeping Bergeron, Marchand. They're keeping all of these players that they've had for a number of years now, and they really didn't make much of a splash. They must either like their core. They did get a new coach, which I will talk about, so that does have some added emphasis on what the season's going to look like for them. But other than that, the only thing going on this offseason is the contract signing for Pastrnak. And just today, it turns out that Pasternak's looking for an 8-year contract, $8.5 million, for a $68 million contract, which is identical to Draisaitl's in Edmonton. And it seems that, and I talked about this in my earlier video, this is going to be the new norm for young RFAs. They're going to know that since 1 and now maybe 2 or 3 good RFAs are getting these fantastic 8, 9, 10-year contracts at $6, $7, $8 million, that they too can reach that. And they're going to be able to hold out and use it as evidence. And it's going to tie the hands of the GMs. It's going to tie the hands of the organizations, and they're not going to be able to pay every single young RFA they have this type of money. It's not going to be possible, and it's going to cause a weird parting of the middle class, I guess you can call it, of the NHL, where you have these low-paid journeymen making $1 million to $1.5 million on 2-year contracts, like a Parenteau or a Lovejoy, where you just homer bias there, because they're the few that come to mind when I think of people like this. But signing a 2-year, 1-year contract, being a rental, getting traded at the trade deadline for picks, And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have the Sidney Crosbys, you have the Pasternaks, the Draisaitl's, the Tarasenko's making $7, $8, $9, $10 million a season, and there's no in between because the players will believe that they have the skill set to be paid like stars, even though they have the skill set of like an average NHLer, a middleman, which is fine. You need players like that to fill in your second and third lines. You need those depth players. But now they're going to expect to get paid like first liners, and it's just going to cause a rift. It's going to cause a lot of contract issues. I'm hoping the NHL doesn't go down that route, but we really don't know, and it seems to be trending that way at least this summer. So next summer, when there's a whole new host of UFAs and RFAs that need to get signed, we may see it tends to the norm where there's more of a middle salary, but this summer you haven't seen that whatsoever. And so let's just talk about the Bruins and how they're going to seem next season. So they signed Bruce Cassidy as the coach halfway through. Claude Julien's gone. He's now with the Canadiens, which is just weird. I don't know how else to term it. It's just a weird image to see him behind the bench of the Canadiens. It's like seeing Ray Shero with the Rangers or Brodeur with the Rangers, like a Bruins icon with their rival. It does feel very weird. But Bruce Cassidy was doing absolutely fantastic. I believe he went 18-8-1 this past season when he got signed on, and they made the playoffs and they did okay, but like I said, they lost in the first round, so it wasn't fantastic. But if your full record as a coach is 18-8-1, that's pretty fantastic. I think over 8 games, that's about a 45-50 game win record. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But Bruce did show some signs of being a much better coach. He understands the players he has. I don't know a lot of the critiques against Claude. I think he was more of a veteran lover, like a lot of the older coaches are. They like the guys that have been there for a while. They like to repay that loyalty. And with the Bruins, you have a lot of up-and-comers, and you need to pay them with that ice time. Now, I guess Claude Julien wasn't doing that. I'm sure some Bruin fans can let me know in the comments what exactly transpired. But to me, that's kind of what it seemed like from the outside. And so going into next season, you have a new coach, you have a new top defender in Charlie McAvoy. Hopefully you have Pastrnak signed, or maybe, I don't want to say he gets traded or offer sheeted, but they're going to get something for that because he is an asset. He's an RFA. No matter what, the Bruins are going to get something. I highly doubt he's going to get traded for anything. I do think they'll sign him probably about a 5-year, $6 million contract. I believe that leaves them about 1 or 2 years of his UFA status, in which case they can then sign him onto a contract that he deserves at $8.5 million. Because right now he does not deserve $8.5 million. Fantastic player. Hasn't just put in his time to make that kind of money yet. So hopefully with the Pastrnak that's signed, like I said, you have all these up-and-comers, especially on D. The Bruins have a decent core. They're not the best, but they're definitely not one of the worst. I think Bergeron and Marchand are 2 of the best forwards in the league. Two-way forwards. Marchand, for some reason, has been on an absolutely another level these past 2 years. Bergeron is, again, a fantastic player, fantastic at faceoffs, fantastic on defense, and he can put up points. And you have Pastrnak, again, who's going to be scoring probably 70, 75 points, just like Panarin. And so I do think they're going to be a bubble team next year. I don't think they're going to fall hard. I don't think they're going to drop. If anything, they'll have a better season than they did this year. I think they underachieved slightly. Not a lot, but slightly. The only concern I have is that they are in the Atlantic and the Eastern Conference, which means they'll have to fight for a playoff spot with the up-and-coming Toronto now. You have Tampa Bay. You have the Montreal Canadiens, Washington Capitals, Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Rangers, on and on and on and on and on. Where do you see the Boston Bruins fighting for a spot over? Like, none of those teams, I think, are arguably worse than the Bruins. I think you can make a case that all of them are actually better. And so there's just no room for the Bruins. If they were in the West, I think they'd easily slot into the 6th or 7th seed. Bar none. I think they'd be much better than maybe Minnesota, who probably will get a wild card spot in the West again this year. I don't know, but I don't think they're as bad as a team. They're just a product of being decent in a time when the Atlantic and the Metro are absolutely phenomenal. And that's something that it just happens. It's just luck. That's the name of the game. I do like the Bruins, mainly because I can't stand the Canadiens. But I really would like to see them succeed next year. And I really am looking forward to seeing McAvoy. I'm looking forward to see Pasternak again. And I'm always looking forward to see Marchand. I mean, he's a little POS, but he's the kind of player you always want on your team. You would kill to have him, and I would kill to have him on the Devils. So I love watching him play. Hopefully he gets another 40 goals this season, which, again, is coming out of nowhere. But we'll see. Again, my final verdict is that the Bruins will be a wild card team, and they'll be fighting for it, but I think eventually they may fall short. They're definitely not going to be a top 3 in the Atlantic, but they're definitely not going to be last in the division either. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. So again, guys, I'm doing one of these every day, trying to. It just takes a very long time for me to do this. This 10-minute video takes me about an hour to do, hour and a half. It takes a lot of work to edit it and make the thumbnails and fill out the YouTube pages and post it on social media and render it. And there's a lot of work that goes on beyond just me blathering about stuff I really don't know anything about. So it's a lot of effort, and right now I'm very busy, and so I don't have a lot of time for that effort. But I'm doing the best I can right now, and on the weekdays it's a bit easier. So at least 5 a week, hoping to get 7 a week. I may even start doing 2 on a day or 3 on a day when I have a lot more free time, just to get them out there. But as it is right now, look for another one tomorrow when I talk about the Montreal Canadiens. Take care, guys.